Hey, Fresno! Are you looking for something different in your life? A change for your future and just don't know where to begin? Let UEI College show you the way. UEI College offers hands-on career training in healthcare, business, trades, and more. And they'll teach you the skills you need for a new career, one that you can really be proud of. Classes are starting now. Text UEI at 474747. To get started today, that's UEI at 474747.
Happily promoting the 4 F's: freedom, faith, free markets, and fun. Mojo 50.
News, politics, entertainment, and more. Welcome to The Informant. Independent talk, pursuing truth, informing everyone. Now, here is The Informant, Eric Thompson.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to The Informant. Thank you again for joining me here for another week on Mojo50.com, going out on iHeartRadio and over on Spreaker. If you ever want to get a hold of me, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can head over to my website, the-informant, or over to my social media platform, magabook.com, magabook.com. Thank you so much for sitting in here for another hour as I try to compile the insanity that has taken place in the last 48 hours. And the thing that is the same every time is Chicago, Illinois has people getting shot and dying almost daily. Baltimore shot daily. DC, LA. But those stories don't really fit. They don't advance anything. So they're kind of, it's kind of bad. Yeah, somebody got shot. And, unless a little kid gets shot, then, that's bad. But when you have a series of pretty much identical profiles, skinny, white, maybe some Persian, depends, glasses, nerdy, Antifa. But no, that's not Antifa. Oh, no. That's not a word that the liberals want to talk about. No, it's President Trump. President Trump, because he wants America to be great, because he wants people to have to come in the country legally, he made 3 Democratic anti-President Trump. One is a Satanist. One is a supporter of Elizabeth Warren. He made them. They listened to him. Go out and do sociopathic, evil things. And as we go through them today, I just want you to keep that in mind, that in a country of 360 million people, there's going to be crazy people in it. Now, over in London, they have more stabbings and murders with knives this year than New York has with guns. And when they asked the mayor, happens to be a Muslim, what are you going to do? What do you think about these gun stabbings? He said, well, in a diverse country, you're going to have some things that happen like this. That's just the price of living in a diverse culture. Germany last week, the Germans watched a Muslim immigrant stab someone on the ground with a samurai sword several times, killing him. They couldn't stop him. A Muslim immigrant pushed a mom and a 10-year-old in front of an oncoming subway. She got out. The boy didn't, dead. Another story where they pushed a kid in a European mall, fell 5 floors. So when you're in a country like ours that has forced migration, forced immigration, forced processing of illegal immigrants, video games teaching people how to kill professionally from their room, music telling them to kill police, rape girls, calling them you-know-whats, movies, every movie, sex, violence, adultery, murder, deceit. No need for God in the culture unless it's Allah. Then you know what? We don't want to say anything. We're going to go with him. And then, like in China, you know, the way that they've infiltrated our colleges, and the House member in Missouri is like, you know, get your Buddhist propaganda, your communist propaganda system out of our colleges, please. Our country is in a state of perpetual stress because there's 100+ million guns in the United States. I talk to all kinds of people. I talk to liberals. I talk to far leftists. I talk to homosexual couples. I talk to mountain people. And the one common thing for people who are involved at all in monitoring the political process is stress. Our culture is being played by a progressive media that makes a lot of money off of shootings. They make a lot of money off of interviews. Well, make sure you don't miss our news broadcasts, as we're going to discuss with these experts on how President Trump caused these 3 nerdy guys in Gilroy, El Paso, and Massachusetts to kill people. Well, even though they're Democrats, liberals, and they like Elizabeth Warren, and wrote manifestos saying that they supported the Christchurch shooter over in New Zealand. And yes, they are crazy young men. We're not going to talk about that. We just want to figure out how President Trump caused it. Because he had to have. Because by him saying that Baltimore has been a blank hole for 30 years, while Representative Cummings agreed 20 years ago, their mayor agreed in the last 5 to 6 years, and President Trump basically, just looking at the stats, said, why don't you quit picking on the Border Patrol, Cummings? Why don't you deal with your city? That was a racist comment to say that the city has a lot of crime, rats, and eroding or deceased animals, drugs, violence. And here we go into another week. Democrats are going to be pushing for gun control. Going to go after that evil AR-15, which is not a automatic machine gun. It's just a rifle. A kid that plays video games all day that's good at shooting can bring 3 magazines in, shoot off 20 rounds within a matter of a minute. If he's good at dropping the magazine, putting another one in. But is it really about the AR-15, or is it about getting rid of our Second Amendment? Is it conditioning the millennials and Generation Z that, well, you know, we've been fighting to get control of this. Now, just so you know, the El Paso shooter lived up by Dallas and drove a long ways. And he said in his manifesto, he specifically wanted to go to a no-gun zone to do his bidding because there's nobody there to shoot back. Wow, isn't that special? Just like when Charlie Hebdo, when the London police officers showed up with their billy clubs to stop the Muslims that had the machine guns in the streets, and oops, they're on their face getting shot in the back of the head because their stick in their hand was no match for any type of gun. So let's go ahead and break down some news here. Here is from the Hill. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney on Sunday defended President Trump's record. Because we're not going to talk about that they're Democrats, that they're Antifa, that they support the New Zealand terrorist shooter that thought that the Chinese system was the most preferred, atheist. So Mick Mulvaney said that in wake of the two mass shootings in which dozens of people were killed in less than 24 hours, quote, this is a serious problem. There's no question about it. But they are sick people, and the president knows it, unquote. Mulvaney said on ABC's This Week, I don't think it's fair to try and lay this at the feet of the president. At least 20 people were killed in a shooting in El Paso, Texas, Walmart on Saturday. At least 9 people were killed in Dayton, Ohio early Sunday morning. And by the way, 7 people were shot in Chicago during the same time. And Texas caught another guy who wanted to go shoot people. Mulvaney said Trump's first call after the shooting at El Paso, which claimed 20 lives, was to the Attorney General to find out what could be done to prevent this type of thing from happening, what we could do to send a message to the sick people who would do this type of thing. ABC's Jonathan Karl pressed Mulvaney on the administration's record on gun laws and Trump's past statements about white nationalism. Multiple Democrats have blamed divisive rhetoric coming out of the White House for the El Paso shooting, in which the Hispanic community was apparently targeted. White nationalism. How has President Trump defended white nationalism? He hasn't. He even said, after they took him out of context, about the nut down in South Carolina, Charlottesville, that Antifa and white supremacists and the Ku Klux Klan are flat out wrong. They're just wrong, period. Oh, no, he said that there were good people on both sides of the street when they were having a debate about the monuments getting taken down. Okay, but there were more people there than the Antifa group and the white supremacists. So, of course, President Mulvaney had to be out there saying, no, get your eyes off of President Trump. Now, the first shooter was at a Walmart in El Paso. El Paso has over 600,000 people, like 80 or 90% Mexican. Yes. It's pretty much a Mexican city. So this shooter here, I'm not going to give you his name because he doesn't deserve it, but he wrote the inconvenient truth about me. He wrote a little paper here, a little manifesto, but here's what it says. In general, I support the Christchurch shooter and his manifesto. This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. The instigator is not me. I'm simply defending my country from culture and ethnic replacement brought on by an invasion. Sounds like a white supremacist to me, maybe Antifa. We're at the station break. Thank you for listening to The Informant here on Mojo50.com, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Check out the network, share with your friends and family, and then head over to magabook.com. Thank you again for listening to The Informant. All right, let's continue here. So here's this manifesto. I'm only going to go through a part of it. He says here that I am simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by an invasion. Some people will think this statement is hypocritical because of the nearly complete ethnic and cultural destruction brought to the Native Americans by our European ancestors, but this just reinforces my point that natives did not take the invasion of Europeans seriously, and now what's left is just a shadow of what it was. But he goes on farther, more and more down here. He talks about that the main gun he was going to use is his AK-47. He goes, I know this is not the best. It's a civilian version of an AK-47. It's not designed to shoot rounds quickly and it overheats. So he goes over the bullets, goes over how this has nothing to do with President Trump's statements. It's one racist, Antifa supporting, New Zealand Muslim killing supporting, Chinese government supporting mentally ill young man. Now, there's an article here from Saborka.com. And the article says, the El Paso shooter admits he is a progressive leftist. Now, this is Sebastian Gorka, but this is his website, sebgorka.com. The El Paso shooter admits he's a progressive leftist. Did you hear that? The El Paso shooter is a progressive leftist, and I just read part of his manifesto. Here's how he breaks it down. It should come to no surprise that the fake news industrial complex has already pounced on the latest mass shootings for political purposes. Already, there has been a flurry of cries from pundits and presidential candidates alike insisting that this shooting was somehow caused by President Trump and his rhetoric, and that this is allegedly further proof that our president is stoking racial division. But once again, the media is ignoring an inconvenient little thing called the truth. The so-called manifesto, which investigators say they are reasonably confident was written by the shooter, is already available online. While the normal cause of action would be to completely shun this garbage to avoid giving him attention, his words must be analyzed for the explicit purpose of debunking the space narrative that this shooting is somehow a Republican problem or caused by President Trump or otherwise to be blamed exclusively on the right. Of course, the manifesto bleeds with outright racist language as he describes a, quote, Hispanic invasion of Texas, unquote, and a cultural ethnic replacement brought on by the invasion. However, within the text, the shooter makes several comments about that reveal his true political identity. First, the shooter expresses his disdain for both major parties. He decries the Democrats' open border policies while he also declares that the Republican Party is also terrible. Since the GOP, he says, quote, is pro-corporation, unquote, unquote, pro-corporation equals pro-immigration, unquote. The section of the manifesto entitled Economic Reasons is by far the most shocking part in terms of directly contradicting the media spin of the shooter was somehow far right. He explicitly expresses his support for a basic universal income, which he says is the only thing that can prevent widespread poverty and civil unrest. Then he goes on to support ambitious social projects like universal health care. Does that sound at all like conservative ideas? A guy that was answering the dog call of President Trump? He continued on ambitious social projects like universal health care. Later, he claims that Americans' lifestyle, quote, is destroying the environment of our country, unquote, and that, quote, the decimation of the environment is creating a massive burden for future generations, unquote. Despite this refutation, the media and the Democrats have gone ahead to run with the usual narrative anyway, with Robert Francis O'Rourke openly calling the president a racist, accusing him of stoking racism in this country, and Pete homosexual Buttigieg declaring that the president of the United States is condoning white nationalism, and socialist Bernie Sanders falsely claiming that there is a growing culture of bigotry espoused by Trump and his allies. The New York Times has even deliberately misattributed some of his words to certain causes. As the article says, the manifesto that may be linked to him described an imminent attack and railed against immigrants, saying, if we can get rid of enough people, then our way of life can be sustainable. However, that particular line of getting rid of enough people is not a reference to immigration. It's a reference to global warming. As he wrote right before the sentence, the next logical step is to decrease the number of people in America using resources. So you can see it. Shootings, which guns don't shoot people. Crazy people shoot people. Some people shoot guns because they are defending their livelihood, their families, their property. That's not killing people. That is use of force. That is warranted use of force. Murder or going around killing people or killing people who do not deserve or did nothing to bring upon the shooting. Now, here's an article from Natural News. This guy, I think, he's kicked off Facebook already, but he does a natural show. So here's 5 simple questions that blow apart the official fake news narrative about the El Paso Walmart shooting from Mike Adams. Here we go. Number 1. If there's only one shooter, why did so many eyewitnesses report multiple shooters at the scene? 2, why did the local police arrest and hold 3 suspects in custody, as widely reported by the media before the story was changed to a lone shooter? Why does the so-called manifesto appear to be written by someone far older than 21 years of age? According to this, and the manifesto is a hoax. It was not written by an individual who was arrested as a shooter. 4, how does the one man kill 20 people and wound another 30 with a single magazine that only holds 30 rounds? The surveillance photo shows no chest rig, no battle belt, and no spare magazines. 5, if the shooter is on a suicide mission, why does he bother to wear both eye protection and ear protection? Because he knows he will survive his mission and be taken into custody after surrendering to the police. It wasn't a suicide mission at all. 18 months from now, the role will have forgotten his name. Well, the name of the shooter, and the media will never report anything about him again. Interesting. Here's from the Gateway Pundit. Jim Hoft, El Paso Walmart shooter Patrick Crusius admits in manifesto that he chose a gun-free zone for obvious reasons. Is it obvious to you? Do you think it's obvious to the left that if a crazy person wants to shoot people and they want to do it in a public setting, and they don't want to be shot back at, they don't want to be killed unless they kill themselves, but they don't want to be shot at, then all they have to do is find out, where is a gun-free zone where I can go shoot and nobody can shoot back? The Walmart Cielo Vista Mall shooter in El Paso, Texas, was identified this afternoon as Patrick Crusius from Allen, outside of Dallas. Washington Examiner Anna Garitelli posted the name and photos. Okay, so he's just turned 21 this week. In that manifesto I read a part of, he said he chose a gun-free zone as his target for obvious reasons. Quote, remember, it's not cowardly to pick low-hanging fruit, a.k.a. don't attack heavily guarded areas to fulfill your super soldier COD fantasy. Attack low-security targets. Even though you might outgun a security guard or policeman, they'll likely beat you in armor, training, and numbers. It's absurd that we have no gun zones. So it's another series of democratic policies and laws trying to protect people, but getting them killed instead because there's nobody there to help except maybe one security guard with a gun or a police officer that happens to be near the mall. All right, so that's the El Paso story. We'll get to the Dayton one here in a second. But I wanted to cover this before the break. So the left is already, we already went over the fact that the El Paso shooter was a leftist, a globalist, a guy who either wrote it and thought it through or somebody wrote it and whatever. But if he wrote it, then he systematically wrote down logically in his sick mind what he was doing. So Kamala Harris, who got her butt kicked in the last debate, she says she's willing to send cops to people's homes to confiscate banned firearms. From Vegas, California, Democrat Senator Kamala Harris gave details about her gun control proposals in the wake of the deadly El Paso, Texas shooting after she addressed union members of the AFS-CME Forum at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas on Saturday. When asked by a Washington Examiner if her plan would include legal gun owner databases or gun confiscation via law enforcement visits to residents who owned banned firearms, she replied, quote, I'm actually prepared to take executive action to put in place rules that improve this situation, unquote. She continued, quote, I also have, as part of my background and experience working on the issue, when I was Attorney General of California, we put resources into allowing law enforcement to actually knock on the doors of people who were on two lists, a list where they had been found by a court to be a danger to themselves and others, they were on a list where they were precluded or prohibited from owning a gun because of a conviction that prohibited ownership. Those lists were combined, and then we sent law enforcement out to take those guns because, listen, we have to deal with this on all levels because we have to deal with the sense of urgency. What about the video games? What about the movies? What about no God and culture? Thank you for listening to The Informant. My name's Eric Thompson. I'll be right back.
You know what makes you feel really good about yourself? Doing something good for somebody else. If you'd like to do that today, go to jdrf.org. Join them in the fight against type 1 diabetes. jdrf.org. It's something good you can do for the world. jdrf.org.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Hi, this is Lee Colan with your Leadership Matters Minute. I love a good quotation as much as anybody. I remember a classic way back when I was a kid. But I remember that one my dad always said, winners never quit and quitters never win. We've all heard that one, and maybe we've even tried to live it out, even pass it on to our own kids, just like our parents did to us. The truth is that winners always quit. Today's winners quit every day. They even quit what they typically consider to be pretty good habits. Habits like getting comfortable, managing time, striving for success. But winners quit these pretty good habits for really great habits like exploring the edge, managing our attention instead of our time, and seeking significance instead of striving for success. We might hear that little voice in our heads telling us, winners never quit, winners never quit. But unfortunately, that little voice doesn't always tell us what we really need to hear. Quitting a strategy or a habit is different than quitting on your goal. So now is the time to trade in some pretty good habits for some really great ones. I'm Lee Colan, and this is your Leadership Matters Minute. For more tips and tools, text the word leadership to 444-999.
Hi, it's Doc Thompson for Matthew 25 Ministries. Matthew 25 Ministries is one of the few charities I'll actually endorse because I know them. I've worked with them, and I know almost all of the money that you donate goes to help people. Go to m25m.org, m25m.org.
Welcome back. Your favorite independent talk show continues. Here again is Eric Thompson, the Informant.
Thank you so much for staying with me. Welcome back to The Informant here on Mojo50.com, over on Spreaker and on iHeartRadio. Thank you. As we're marching through, just evaluating what happened this last 2 or 3 days with the shooting in Gilroy, the shooting in El Paso, and shooting out in Massachusetts, Dayton. What's going on? And to encapsulate it, 3 mentally deranged young men killed people. They appear to all be sympathizers of Antifa, Democrats. One of them's a Satanist or an atheist, whatever. Just not balanced young men. So instead of us as a culture coming together saying, what drives people? Oh, we know, the left knows it's President Trump. It's his white racism. That's what causes these people to give up their lives. Seriously. Elizabeth Warren supporters, registered Democrats, wrote manifestos, wore earplugs and glasses to go shoot in a gun-free zone. So what's going to happen is that we're going to go through this week and they're going to point fingers, and President Trump's already called for the flags to be lowered around the country, and it's going to be the two sides blaming each other. The left is going to continue to push to go after taking away our guns. The pro-gun, the Second Amendment people, the free people are going to say absolutely not. You don't even think about it. And here we are. The divided states of America. And I was speaking to people this weekend, and I'm telling you, even people that you would think, oh, they're probably going to be a little more, even if they're pro-gun, which I am a big proponent of Second Amendment, but I talked to an older Christian lady, and I thought, well, she's going to be like just devastated about the shootings, just like all of us, and, maybe she's going to buckle a little bit, just kind of mask it. And I said, well, did you hear about the shooting? And she says, well, they kicked God out of school and kicked him out, and the people want to live like the way they want to live with and not be responsible. And I was going like, wow. The undercurrent of the American citizen that knows that the deep state is working through the media, working through trials like this, working through education, working through anything they can to divide us by any reason for the express purpose of trying to take out President Trump, while they know that Inspector General Horowitz's report's landing probably this week. Special Prosecutor Durham's coming out. People's heads are going to roll. Comey and the boys and girls. And here we go into another week. If you've listened to me enough, you pretty much know I'm a conservative independent, and I am a Christian. You're not going to hear me dropping bad language, and I tend not to want to be too, damning of people and harsh. But I am getting concerned because the culture has become postmodern to the point that existentialism, that the desire for your own happiness and your own desires is superseding even general decorum. Okay, well, somebody has a different view than me. That's okay. That's America, free speech. No, that guy has a hat on. It says MAGA. You can hit him. You can stomp on his face. Tell the youth. Tell your supporters. Tell everybody. Oh, somebody has a gun in Chicago. Black kid shoots black kid over drugs. We're not going to talk about that because Rahm Emanuel, or now the new first lesbian mayor of Chicago. We don't want her to make her look bad. We don't want Baltimore to look bad. So we're going to kind of keep the lowdown on liberal areas. We're not going to talk about Skid Row in Los Angeles. We're not going to talk about the feces up in San Francisco. We're not going to talk about the beatings and the shootings up in Portland and these areas. We're just going to talk about three nerdy white guys that play too many video games that are probably in Antifa, or we know they're sympathetic for Antifa, and they're just gone. So why don't we get back to, instead of mocking people that are praying for the people that survived, saying, you know what, take your moment of silence. If you're not a Christian, you're not a religious person, at least honor or respect the people that have an expectation that God will show himself strong through crisis like this. But if we don't realize that the heart of man, that people in general are narcissistic and are takers, and that the laws are put in place and governments are put in place to punish evildoers, if we don't support the police and the military and people trying to punish the evildoers while more and more people are doing evildoing, while more and more people are playing video games where they learn how to kill people very accurately all day, desensitized to it. They're listening to music about cop killers and raping girls and this and that. Because this is what I'm hearing on the left. Don't blame it on videos. Don't blame it on video games. Don't play it on music. Well, everything they're listening to says kill people, rape people, shoot people, kill cops. Yeah, but that's an expression of free speech. We're talking about President Trump's free speech. Oh, what? Well, no, I mean President Trump's tweets. He shouldn't tweet like that. So let's continue here. We already went through the El Paso shooter. We went through that Kamala Harris says that if she becomes president, she's going to do an executive order to get police officers coming to people's doors and taking their guns. Here's an article from AP. 2020 Democrats lay blame on Trump's rhetoric for shootings. What kind of dishonest, unethical, narcissistic, just terrible person do you have to be to take the murderous rants of three crazy people and then try to get all the people that have drunk the Kool-Aid to follow you down, blame President Trump for the shootings? From Manchester, New Hampshire, Democratic presidential candidates sought to lay blame Sunday on President Donald Trump following a pair of mass shootings in Ohio and Texas, saying this language against minorities. The Dayton was in Ohio, not in Massachusetts. So we had the one in Gilroy, California, El Paso, Texas, and then Dayton, Ohio. Saying his language against minorities promotes racial division and violence. Is that what white privilege would white privilege be promoting racial division that leads to violence? Would toxic masculinity diminishing men's opportunity to compete? Would that be like promoting like division? Would saying that white people are the problem and that reparations need to be because the black Americans are still permanently under a position of victimhood under the actions of a few white people 150 years ago? At a public events and television, several candidates pointed to a need for more gun restrictions. How did that work out in the gun-free zone in El Paso? Such as universal background checks, already do those, but they directed much of their criticism at President Trump, seeking to draw a link between the shootings in Dayton and El Paso that have left more than 24 dead. Quote, there is a complicity in the president's hatred that undermines the goodness and decency of Americans regardless of what party, unquote. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker said, quote, to say nothing in a time of raising hatred, it's not just enough to say the quote, I'm not a hate monger myself, unquote. If you're not actively working against hate, calling it out, then you're complicit in what is going on. Kamala Harris in California says that she says that Trump's use of language has incredible consequences. How about the three guys that did the Gilroy shooting and El Paso shooting and the Ohio shootings? What about them? Gateway Pundit, here we go again. AOC blames GOP and, quote, white supremacist base for mass shootings. Accuses Trump of racism for attacking the squad lunatics. Oh, man. Earlier today, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy went on Sunday Morning Futures and blamed video games for the recent mass shootings. This seems like an unpersuasive argument. It seemed like. That's when squad leader AOC jumped in and blamed racist Trump voters for mass shootings. She is an offense as she is dumb. The shooters were not President Trump supporters. Here's AOC. Video games aren't causing mass shootings. White supremacy is. Sadly, the GOP refuse, as she would say, to acknowledge that because their strategy relies on rallying a white supremacist base. That's why the president hosts stadiums of people chanting "Send her back" and targets Congress members of color. AOC believes if you attack her for her constant nonsense she's spewing, it's racist. She also believes the only thing Ilhan Omar can tell people to go home, she can only tell people to go home and where they came from. Ocasio-Cortez is a thought leader of the modern-day Democratic Party. That's from Jim Hoft. New York Post. Now we're going to switch over to the other shooting. Dayton mass shooter Connor Betts slaughtered his own sister during the rampage. Wow. The Dayton mass shooting gunman drove to the scene of the carnage with his sister, then made her one of the 9 victims killed in the slaughter. Megan Betts, 22, was shot dead when her brother, 24-year-old Connor Betts, opened fire in a crowded street in Ohio City lined with bars and restaurants around 1 a.m. But before it started, the siblings and a mutual acquaintance drove together to a hopping nightlife district in Betts' father's 2007 Toyota Corolla. Sometimes after the trio arrived, Connor Betts split up from the other 2, investigators said. During the time, he grabbed his AR-15 rifle, crept through the alley toward a row of revelers, and opened fire. Firing the rifle equipped with a double-drum magazine with a 100-round capacity, Betts gunned down the first of his victims. They were a tattoo parlor, then moved across the street toward Ned's Peppers Bar. Responding cops, including at least 2 armed with long guns, fatally shot Betts within 30 seconds of his first shot. Can you believe that? But that's all the time he needed to kill 9 people and wound 27. Megan Betts was among the dead. The siblings' companion was wounded, according to authorities. Wow. They were there in 30 seconds, but he was ready. He was evil. He was ready to die. There's an article from the Gateway Pundit again. Jim Hoff, Dayton shooter identified 24-year-old Connor Betts from Bellbrook, Ohio, wore satanic patches on his clothing. So you could say that Lucifer, his minion, I'll say probably more this guy's evil mind, as affected by his leaning in towards demonic entities. WBNSN 10 reported the suspect in the Dayton shooting early Saturday, where 9 people were killed, has been identified as a 24-year-old man. Law enforcement sources told the CBS News that the shooter was identified as Connor Betts of Bellbrook, Ohio. The shooter, Connor Betts, was pictured with satanic patches on his jacket in a previous photo. Nothing to do with President Trump. Update. Mass shooter Connor Betts and Elizabeth Warren supporter, hated Trump. Twitter profile included he, him, Annie fan, metalhead, leftist. I'm going to hell and I'm not coming back. I don't think AOC heard these things. Hate has no place in our country. President Trump speaks following shootings. There are people who are seriously mentally ill. Here is a quick soundbite of it.
People of El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, they're incredible people, and they've been through a lot. I just want to also thank the law enforcement in both places. The job they've done is incredible. I also want to congratulate them. I mean, nobody could have done what they've done. This could have been as bad as it was. It could have been so much worse. I just have to thank them. The job they've done is incredible. They were right on the ball in El Paso. They were there so quickly, and in Dayton in less than a minute. Think of the damage he did in such a short period of time. In less than a minute, the law enforcement acted and killed him. And it would have been unbelievable. It was horrible, but it would have been so much worse. It could have been so much worse. I just want to say that these are 2 incredible places. We love the people. Hate has no place in our country, and we're going to take care of it. I spoke with Attorney General Bill Barr at length. I spoke to Christopher Wray, Director of the FBI. Spoke to the governors, both governors. And we're doing a lot of work. A lot of people are working right now, a lot of law enforcement people and others. Spoke to members of Congress about whatever we can do, and a lot of things are being done right now as we speak. I'll be making a statement tomorrow sometime, but just on behalf of our First Lady and myself, condolences to all. We have to get it stopped. This has been going on for years and years in our country. We have to get it stopped. So thank you very much, and I will be making a statement tomorrow at about 10 o'clock, and I'll see you there.
All right, that's the president. So when you hear people saying President Trump doesn't care, he should be out leading, bringing people together, well, he's tweeting and he's speaking and he's trying, but the left do not want him to be successful in bringing people together. And that's just a sick reality. The left doesn't care about people. Look at their aborting babies in the hundreds of thousands a year. If it was up to them, millions. They've got homeless people all over the country living with drug addictions, diseases, rats, inner cities falling apart, mass shootings in Chicago all the time. And here's the president saying this is not acceptable. We need to come together. And they're like, the president is the one causing this, and he should be out there bringing us together. And since he's not, he's complicit. What's he supposed to do besides this? Lower the flags, national call to attention. He's going to do another press conference tomorrow. He's got the FBI, the Department of Justice. He's got the mayor, the governors, everybody all engaged trying to figure out what happened to try to prevent it from happening again. Taking away people's guns is not going to stop this. Period. Look at Paris. Look at Germany. Look at the UK. They'll just use cars. They'll use acid. They'll use knives. Over this period of time this weekend, this is from the Gateway Pundit, mass shooting in Chicago. Did you hear about it? Did you hear about the mass shootings in Chicago? The shooting in Chicago. Did you hear it? 7 people were shot at 1:20 in the morning. No, you didn't. It was ignored by the media. Why? This article says on Saturday, early Sunday, there were 2 horrific mass shootings at an El Paso Walmart in Dayton, Ohio club district. At least 29 people were murdered in 2 mass shootings. There was also a mass shooting late Saturday, early Sunday in Chicago. At least 7 people were injured in a shooting near Douglas Park in Chicago. The media ignored it. Shots were fired from a black Camaro. And Chicago has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. So did you hear about the mass shooting with the toughest gun laws in some of the toughest gun laws in the country? No. Here's a little more summary on what happened in Dayton. This is from the Big League Politics, Tom Rappert. Democrat Dayton shooters Twitter. Push socialism. Enact gun control. Is that showing you the levels of his mental illness? Yeah, we need to enact gun control as I'm killing people with guns. Slice ISIS tires, and he wants to end fascism because he's an anti-fascist. He's an Antifa. Twitter account belonging to Connor Betts, the alleged Dayton, Ohio shooter who shot and killed 9 and injured 20 more, was apparently a far leftist who condemned conservatives as Nazis and fascists who deserve to die. Heavy confirms the Twitter account, I am the spookster, belonged to the deceased alleged Dayton shooter. When he went on a shooting spree early today, on the Twitter, Betts advocated socialism, gun control, said conservatives or Nazis deserve to die, told his voters to vote blue for God's sake. That's all according to his Twitter page, which was reviewed by Heavy. The Twitter page gives the first public glimpses into the shooter's politics, and what he wrote stands pretty much in popular opposite to the accused El Paso shooter Patrick Creases, whose own social media accounts indicate support for President Trump and anti-immigrant measures such as a border wall. But then he also was worried about global warming and everything else. Dayton shooter praised Antifa terrorists who firebombed an ICE facility. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in Texas, this was on Thursday. There was another mass shooter, but he was stopped in Texas. William Patrick Williams, 19, was arrested Thursday. He was planning to carry out a mass shooting at a Texas hotel. Texas law enforcement appeared to have thwarted yet another mass shooting, taking a suspect into custody on Thursday. The suspect told his grandmother he was planning to, quote, shoot up, unquote, an area hotel and commit suicide in July. The man's grandmother convinced him to allow her to take him to a hospital for mental health treatment instead, placing him on the radar of Texas authorities. William Patrick Williams, 19, was arrested by ATF and FBI agents at the hotel for acquiring a firearm under false pretenses. William had misrepresented his address on the National Institute and National Instant Criminal Background Check form, stating that he resided with relatives when in fact he had moved to a different address. Falsely listing an address on a gun transaction firearm form is a serious criminal offense. So when they raided his room, they discovered he had 17 loaded magazines, several knives, tactical clothing, a T-shirt with the omnibus. I'm always screwing this up because of omnibus. Ominous message of, quote, let come, unquote. What do you think is going on with all of, what is your opinion? What do you think's with all of these shootings? You think it's the video games? You think, no, don't blame it on video games. Is it the music? Is it CNN? Is it MSNBC? Is it the Washington Compost? Is it the Young Turks? What news, what entertainment mediums, what is causing people? Oh, wait, I forgot about one. Could it be AOC and her world's ending in 12 years? Or that nut jab was a Yang or whatever the guy during the debate, that it's too late. Time to get to higher ground. So if you have mentally ill people that think they have a license to go hurt people or stop people for Antifa purposes, and the world's coming to an end unless the population is reduced, and it's their job to go out and be martyrs for it, what do you expect? Venezuelans regret the day they gave up their guns because they haven't been able to defend themselves. Vietnam, Russia, Germany, all those centuries where people give up guns for peace and then tyranny kicks in, and then they kicked in and they had no defense against the tyrannical governments. This is my position on this. We need to open mental health clinics, and there's nothing that can happen in the United States of America involving guns that would entitle the government to supersede our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. It's that simple. The founders knew that if the citizens of our country gave up their guns, that they would be subject to tyranny just like they were when they were subjects in England. This debate's not going to stop. The goal for the left is to keep brainwashing students, to indoctrinate them in Marxism, to wait for older Americans who served in the wars to die, And then they're hoping that by flooding the country with multiple countries of non-assimilated people, giving some amnesty, some the ability to get green cards, that the generations to come in the next 100, 150 years, they can eventually wear them down to say, you know what? With technology and robotics, let us police the bad people. Well, we can pretty much predict in advance when the crime's going to happen. So if we get rid of all the guns, which is going to require, I think it's 3/5 or 2/3 of the states, but I think it's like 38 of the 50 states have to ratify a constitutional amendment. The answer, tell your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, never, ever, ever give up your constitutional rights. Live free. Finish up the show here. United Nations UN plans new global censorship push to combat hate speech. The United Nations is trying to stamp out what they see as hate speech by having global hate speech laws. No, no, no. We need to get out of the United Nations too. So tough weekend. You have a great week. Keep our country in prayer, our president in prayer, and love your families. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of mojo. Mojo 50. This is the seditious, rabble-rousing, liberty-loving, home of fun,
Hey Fresno! Are you looking for something different in your life? A change for your future and just don't know where to begin? Let UEI College show you the way. UEI College offers hands-on career training in healthcare, business, trades, and more. And they'll teach you the skills you need for a new career, one that you can really be proud of. Classes are starting now. Text UEI at 474747. To get started today, that's UEI at 474747.
We're here at Circle K witnessing a legendary drink mix for 79 cents.
Looks like he's going with Red Sports Drink.
And now lemon lime soda.
Oh, the Cola Froster Top-Off.
Polar Pops and Frosters are only 79 cents each at Circle K. Limited time only at participating locations.